I'd be extremely surprised if you've clicked on this video and have not even at least heard about some of the benefits that NoFap can supposedly do for you. You know, you get increased confidence levels, you get a boost in testosterone, you get a boost in energy levels. But yet, even after knowing all of these things, you still can't get a hold of yourself, can you? You live at the fucking mercy of fapping 3 times a day minimum, and you just can't stop watching women getting absolutely destroyed via pixels on a screen. And the thing is, I remember when I first watched porn for the first time. I think I was about 13 years old, which is stupidly young. And, you know, I remember I was actually lying in my bed, believe it or not. And I think I'd probably heard one of my school friends talking about it at school during the day or something like that. And obviously I was curious. So I went onto my phone, probably like an iPhone 3 or whatever I had at that time. Actually, it wouldn't have even been an iPhone. It would have been like a Sony Ericsson or something like that. And I remember going onto this phone, and I remember stumbling across some of my first ever porn websites, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. And very quickly, I was hooked to this. You know, it became a regular occurrence every single night. I'd go onto my phone and I'd be looking at all of these different porn websites. Actually, I think it started off by me looking at this newspaper in the UK where they actually have, I think it's called the Sun newspaper, and basically, if you're not from the UK, then it's just basically women that will have pictures just of their, like, you know, breasts or whatever. It wasn't anything more than that. That's how I started, and I gradually increased the kind of intensity of this porn as I got older and older, and, you know, that's when I eventually ended up watching the videos, as we all know, on the famous websites. And what eventually happened from me watching these websites over and over again was that I found myself in a loop where I actually couldn't fucking stop, mate. Like, I couldn't stop. I was addicted, and I think it's very similar to a lot of young men around the world. Like, it's just something that seems to be a part of our modern lives at the moment. Like, you know, we just can't seem to stop watching porn. I mean, luckily for myself, and something that I've, you know, had to work on quite a lot, I don't have this problem anymore. And that's mainly because I kind of realized if I can't even stop this habit of watching women getting penetrated on, you know, a screen, if I can't even do that, then how the hell, like, can I possibly expect to succeed in, you know, other areas of my life? How can I possibly expect to build other habits in my life that will actually provide some value to me? So I knew that I had to make this change. I couldn't continue living on like this. And you might be watching this and thinking, oh, you know, it's not that deep, you know, it's not too much of an issue. But when it takes over your life in the sense that you can't even, like, respect yourself, you can't even respect yourself because you're not even able to trust your own brain because you just give up at the slightest of urges, that's when you have an issue. And I think that's the case for a lot of men. That's the case for a lot of my mates. You know, it just seems to be something that completely grabs hold of, you know, their urges and just completely takes over their life in the form of not even being able to form, like, the slightest amount of discipline. And that's when it's a fucking problem, mate. Okay? And if you're watching this video, I know full well that you are definitely struggling with this right now. And I want to help you, man. I really do. I want to help you as much as I can. And I'll start with saying this, because this is where most people go wrong. And that is that they get brought onto this movement of NoFap. And essentially, this whole NoFap movement does have a good motive behind it. But the problem lies in the fact that people start to count the days that they've been on this NoFap streak for. And don't get me wrong, this can be a great way to keep people motivated. You know, when they're seeing the streak going up, they think, oh Christ, you know, I'm actually doing so well. You know, I'm on 12 days of NoFap. You know, I haven't been watching porn and all these stuff, and it feels great. But what will happen, like, inevitably, is that at some point you are going to fall back into this kind of addiction. And essentially, when this happens, you're going to feel really fucking shit. And that's just the way it is, right? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. right? But that's the truth. And what this is going to do is it's going to make you feel really bad about yourself. And then you're going to start thinking you're a failure. You're going to start thinking that you never really were able to control yourself, and that, you're actually just still a degenerate or whatever. And you're going to continue then doing this over and over again because you've already relapsed, right? So what's the point? You've already relapsed. That's what you're going to be thinking. So that's why it's an issue if you really give that much power to this and you start counting the days. Essentially, that's kind of the meat of this whole subject, is giving power, right? And that's what NoFap streaks do. It gives power to this whole idea of not fapping and, retaining semen. That's what this whole thing does. And that's where the issue lies. And what I found actually that helped for me the most is when I stopped counting the days, and I actually just didn't identify myself with somebody that's on this NoFap movement, but instead somebody that just doesn't fucking wank, mate, right? You have to think of it like this. There are some really, really wealthy people and successful people who are famous, right? And these are the kind of guys that, if you picture them, right? Picture some really famous dude who's got, he's got all the money, he's done very well in his life. Do you seriously think that this kind of guy is the kind of guy that will fap and all of a sudden just start feeling really shit about himself because, he's just had a wank or whatever, and now he's broken his NoFap streak, and now he's, he's just a failure, and he's going to start doing other stupid habits because, he can't even stay on top of his NoFap streak and whatever. Do you think he actually gives that much power to this idea of retaining semen and like NoFap and all that stuff? No, of course he doesn't. He doesn't, because, if he makes a failure, if he fails, if he faps or whatever, I mean, is fapping even a failure when you take it upon yourself and just think, oh, fuck it, like, it happened, whatever, and you just move on with your life and you continue doing the other good habits that, provide this successful man with the success he's got. He just continues going on with his life. He eats well, he goes to the gym, he stays on top of his business. Do you think he really gives too much of a fuck? Does he give that much power to NoFap? Of course he doesn't. Now, yes, retaining semen does provide so many benefits, but it can be completely counterproductive when you give it all of this power. And that's the message that I'm trying to push to you today. And the whole point about not giving NoFap the power is that you don't become a slave to your desires. You don't become a slave to your urges. You're able to really just ignore those urges and actually just get to a point of where you're able to just be present. That's what it means to not give power to this whole idea of semen retention. It's not about counting the days. It's not about getting flustered and upset and demoralized when you relapse, because it's not about that. Those things are inevitable. Can't even speak at the moment. Yeah, those things are inevitable, man. At the end of the day, your main focus just needs to be that you shouldn't always necessarily just be, beating yourself up for the things that you have done, i.e., been fapping or whatever, but more about the things that you haven't been doing. Like, have you been staying on top of your routines? Have you been going to the gym? Have you been learning how to fight? Have you been meditating? Have you been journaling? Which are, all the things that are amazing. Of course, you want to be staying away from, watching porn and things like that. But essentially, stop giving so much power to the idea of fapping and focus your attention on the more important things in life. And slowly but surely, you're going to be living a life where you're actually probably not even going to be interested in watching porn, because your life is filled with so many other more important things that, you're happy to give power to, because they're the things that serve you. So I hope you took something from this message today. Believe you can, my friend, and you're more than halfway there.